Dr. Amanda Price rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. She had been working at the Deep Space Listening Station in Nevada for 12 hours straight. The numbers on her screen made no sense. For 3 days now, her equipment had been picking up a signal from somewhere far out in space. But this was not like any signal she had ever seen before. The signal was coming from a place that was 47 light-years away from Earth. That meant it should have taken 47 years for the signal to reach Earth. But somehow this signal was arriving in real time. It was breaking every rule of physics that Amanda knew. She picked up her phone and called her boss. "Dr. Barnes, you need to come in right now. We have something big here." Dr. Kevin Barnes arrived at the station 30 minutes later. He was the best language expert on Earth. If anyone could figure out what this signal meant, it was Kevin. Amanda showed him the strange patterns on her computer. "This is impossible," Kevin said. "Look at these frequencies, they should not exist." "I know," Amanda replied, "but they are here. And Kevin, I think this signal is trying to talk to us." Kevin spent the next 6 hours working on the signal. He used every computer program he had. He tried every language code he knew. Finally, just as the sun was coming up, he got his first clear words. "Please help us." Kevin's hands shook as he typed on his keyboard. More words appeared on the screen. "The devourer comes. We are the last. Please help us." Amanda felt cold fear run through her body. "Who sent this message?" "I don't know yet," Kevin said. "But they learned our language from our old TV shows. They have been listening to Earth for a long time." Over the next few hours, Kevin decoded more of the message. The aliens called themselves the Kalari. They lived on 3 planets around a distant star. For many years, something called the Devourer had been moving through space, destroying every planet it found. The Devourer did not just kill people. It took them and made them part of itself. The Kalari had watched the Devourer destroy hundreds of worlds. Now it was coming for them. They would be dead in a few days. But before they died, they had sent out one last message to every star they could reach. Only Earth had answered. "Why us?" Amanda asked. "Why did they call Earth?" Kevin pointed to a section of the decoded message. "They scanned one of our old colony ships many years ago. The ship was called the New Horizon. It left Earth 300 years ago to find new worlds. The Kalari met this ship and learned about humans. What did they learn? They learned that human brains work differently than other alien brains. Most species give up when they face something too big and scary. But humans get angry. Humans fight back. The Kalari think that maybe humans can stop the Devourer." Amanda looked out the window at the desert around the listening station. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, an entire race of people was about to die, and they were asking Earth for help. She picked up a secure phone and dialed a number in Washington. "This is Dr. Amanda Price at Deep Space Station 7. I need to speak to the President right now." 2 hours later, President Lisa Rodriguez was sitting in the White House Situation Room. Around the table sat the most important military and science leaders in the world. Kevin Barnes stood at the front of the room with a large screen showing the alien message. "The signal is real," Kevin told the room. "We have checked it 20 different ways. These aliens are dying and they are asking us to help them." General Paul Carter, the head of Space Command, shook his head. "How can we help someone who is 47 light-years away? Our fastest ships can barely reach Mars." "That's not entirely true," said Dr. Susan Mitchell. She was the head of the secret space program. "We have been working on something new. We call it the quantum drive. It can move a ship faster than light." Everyone in the room turned to look at her. Faster than light travel was supposed to be impossible. "How fast?" the president asked. "We think we can reach the Kalari system in 6 weeks," Susan said. "But we have never tested it on a long trip. It could be very dangerous." President Rodriguez looked around the room. "What do you all think? Should we try to help these aliens?" "Ma'am," said General Carter, "we don't know anything about this Devourer. What if it follows us back to Earth?" Dr. Barnes cleared his throat. "According to the Kalari message, the Devourer already knows about Earth. It has been watching us for a long time. If we don't help stop it now, it will come here anyway." The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, the president spoke. "How many people would we need to send?" "The UES Liberty is our newest and biggest ship," said General Carter. "It has a crew of 300. Captain Ron Hayes is the best commander we have." "What are our chances of success?" the president asked. Dr. Mitchell looked uncomfortable. "Honestly, ma'am, we don't know. No one has ever fought this devourer before. Every species that tried to fight it was destroyed." "But the Kalari think humans might be different," Amanda said. "They think we might be able to do something that no other species could do." President Rodriguez stood up. "I want to talk to Captain Hayes right away. If we are going to do this, we need to move fast." Captain Ron Hayes was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had commanded ships in 3 different wars. When the president told him about the mission, he did not hesitate. "When do we leave?" he asked. "As soon as possible," the president said. "Captain, I want you to understand something. This might be a one-way trip. We don't know if you will be able to come home." Ron nodded. "I understand, ma'am, but if there is a chance we can save those people and protect Earth, we have to try." The next week was chaos. The UES Liberty was loaded with supplies and weapons. The best scientists and soldiers on Earth volunteered for the mission. Amanda Price was chosen to be the communications specialist. Kevin Barnes would handle contact with alien species. As the Liberty prepared to leave Earth, Amanda stood in the communication room and listened to the Kalari signal. It was getting weaker. The aliens were running out of power. Soon, their voice would go silent forever, unless the humans could reach them in time. Ron Hayes stood on the bridge of the Liberty and looked out at the stars. In a few hours, they would jump to faster-than-light speed. They would either save an alien race and possibly the galaxy, or they would disappear into the dark of space. But they had to try, because that is what humans do. When someone calls for help, humans answer. The Liberty's engines powered up. The quantum drive hummed with energy that bent space and time. In the distance, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light. The journey to save the galaxy had begun. Captain Ron Hayes watched the stars blur past the windows of the UES Liberty. The ship was moving faster than anything humans had ever built before. The quantum drive was working, but it made strange sounds that worried the crew. They had been traveling for 2 weeks now, and they still had 4 more weeks to go. Ron walked through the ship every day to check on his crew. 300 people had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never come home. They were the best soldiers, scientists, and engineers that Earth could send. But none of them had ever traveled this far from home before. Dr. Susan Mitchell spent most of her time in the science lab. She was studying the information that the Kalari had sent with their distress call. What she found made her sick to her stomach. The devourer was not just killing people. It was much worse than that. "Captain Hayes, you need to see this," Susan called over the ship's communication system. Ron found Susan in her lab staring at a computer screen full of alien symbols and pictures. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking. "What did you find?" Ron asked. Susan pointed at the screen. "The Kalari sent us records of what happened to other planets. Look at this." The screen showed pictures of beautiful cities and green forests. Then the pictures changed. The same places were now covered in gray metal and strange machines. But the worst part was the people. They were still alive, but they were connected to the machines by tubes and wires. "The devourer doesn't kill them," Susan said quietly. "It keeps them alive and uses their brains. Every person it captures becomes part of a giant mind. All their knowledge, all their memories, everything they ever were becomes part of the devourer." Ron felt cold. "How many people has it captured?" "According to these records, billions, maybe trillions. The devourer has been doing this for millions of years. It moves from galaxy to galaxy, taking everything. In the ship's engine room, Chief Engineer Tom Brady was having his own problems. The quantum drive was working, but it was changing. Every day, the machine looked a little different. New parts seemed to grow from the old ones. And strangest of all, the machine seemed to respond to what the crew was thinking. "Captain, I need to show you something," Tom called on the radio. Ron found Tom staring at the quantum drive engine. The machine was humming with blue light. "Watch this," Tom said. He thought about making the ship go faster. The engine immediately began to glow brighter, and Ron could feel the ship speed up. "How is that possible?" Ron asked. "I don't know," Tom said. "But it's not just me." When Lieutenant Clark was running communication tests yesterday, she was thinking about reaching Earth. The communication system suddenly became 10 times more powerful. Lieutenant Mary Clark was the ship's communication officer. She was a young woman with red hair and green eyes. She had been trying to contact other alien species that might have received the Kalari distress call. "Most of them won't even talk to us," Mary told Ron. "They are too scared. The few that do talk say the same thing. The Devourer cannot be stopped. Every species that tried to fight it was destroyed." "What about the other human colony ships?" Ron asked. "The Kalari said they met one of our ships long ago." Mary's face brightened. "That's the good news. I found them. There are humans scattered all over this part of the galaxy. They have been hiding from the Devourer for hundreds of years." She showed Ron a star map with red dots marking human settlements. There were 12 different groups spread across many star systems. Each group developed different ways to stay hidden, Mary explained. Some learned to make their ships invisible. Others hide underground on dead planets. One group even learned to live in space without any planets at all. Dr. Amanda Price was working with Kevin Barnes to decode more alien messages. They had found something that scared them both. "Ron, you need to hear this," Amanda said when the captain came to the communication room. She played a recording that sounded like screaming mixed with machine noises. But underneath the horrible sounds, they could hear voices speaking in human languages. "What is that?" Ron asked. "It's from the Devourer," Kevin said. "Those are human voices. The colony ship New Horizon didn't escape. The Devourer caught it 300 years ago. The crew and passengers are still alive, but they are part of the Devourer now." Ron sat down heavily. Somewhere in the enemy fleet, thousands of humans were trapped, their minds connected to the horrible machine intelligence. "There's more," Amanda said. "The Devourer has been studying humans for 300 years. It knows everything about us, our languages, our culture, our technology. It has been preparing for the day when it would come to Earth." The worst discovery came when Dr. Susan Mitchell analyzed the enemy's battle tactics. She found records of how the Devourer attacked other species. It always used the same method. First, it would send messages to the target species, telling them that resistance was useless. Most species would surrender without a fight. But not humans, Susan told the senior officers during their daily meeting. "According to the Kalari analysis, humans are different. We don't give up, we get angry when something threatens us." "Is that why the Kalari called us?" Ron asked. "Partly," Susan said. "But there's something else. The Kalari studied human brain, patterns from the New Horizon crew 300 years ago. They found something unique about how our minds work." She put a picture of a human brain on the screen next to pictures of alien brains. "Most intelligent species think in very organized ways," Susan explained. "Their thoughts follow logical patterns, but human brains are different. We can think of things that don't make sense. We can imagine things that are impossible. We can make connections that no logical mind would make." "What does that mean?" asked Chief Brady. "It means we might be able to think of solutions that the Devourer cannot predict or understand," Susan said. "The enemy has absorbed thousands of logical organized species, but it has never faced a species that thinks like humans do." As the Liberty continued its journey through space, strange things kept happening. The ship's weapons became more powerful when the gunners were angry. The navigation system worked better when the pilot really wanted to reach their destination. The ship itself seemed to be learning from the human crew. "It's like the ship is becoming part of us," Tom Brady told Ron. "Or maybe we're becoming part of it." Ron was worried about his crew. They were still weeks away from the Kalari system and the stress was showing. Some people had nightmares about the Devourer, others couldn't eat or sleep. Everyone was scared, but they were also determined. Lieutenant Mary Clark had been talking to the hidden human colonies. She learned that each group had developed special skills during their years of hiding. The descendants of one colony ship had become amazing engineers. They could build machines that seemed to work by magic. Another group had learned to change their bodies to survive in any environment. If we could bring all the human groups together, Mary told Ron, we might have a chance. Each group knows something different. Together, we might know enough to fight the Devourer, but first they had to reach the Kalari system alive. And every day the signals from the alien planet got weaker. The Kalari were running out of time. Ron stood on the bridge and watched the stars. Somewhere ahead of them was an enemy that had conquered entire galaxies. Behind them was Earth, depending on them to succeed. And scattered throughout space were other humans who had been hiding and waiting for someone to lead the fight. The Liberty flew on through the darkness, carrying humanity's hope toward an impossible battle. The UES Liberty dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Kalari star system. What Captain Ron Hayes saw through the front window made his blood run cold. 3 beautiful blue and green planets hung in space, but they were dying. Dark clouds covered most of their surfaces, and the lights of their cities were going out one by one. But the worst sight was the enemy fleet. Hundreds of ships floated in space around the planets. These were not ships like humans would build. They looked like they had been grown instead of made. The metal was dark and twisted, with organic curves that hurt to look at. Tubes and wires connected the ships to each other, making them look like parts of one giant creature. My God, whispered Lieutenant Mary Clark. How many ships are there? Doctor, Susan Mitchell was already scanning the enemy fleet with the Liberty's sensors. I count over 800 ships, she said. Some of them are bigger than anything we have ever seen. Ron activated the ship's communication system. This is Captain Hayes of the UES Liberty calling the Kalari government. Please respond. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a weak signal came through the speakers. The voice was strange and musical, but the words were in English. Human ship, this is Elder Vex of the Kalari High Council. We did not think anyone would come. On the main screen, an alien face appeared. Elder Vex looked like he was made of living crystal, with light flowing through his transparent skin. But the light was dim and flickering, like a candle about to go out. Elder Vex, we received your distress call, Ron said. We are here to help. The alien's crystalline face showed surprise. Help? But you are only one ship. The Devourer has hundreds of ships. It has been taking our people for 7 days. Now, soon, there will be no Kalari left. Tell us about the Devourer, Ron said. How does it attack? Elder Vex's light grew even dimmer. It does not attack like a normal enemy. First, it sends messages into our minds. The messages tell us that fighting is useless. They tell us to surrender and join the collective. Most of our people stopped fighting after the first day. They just gave up. Dr. Amanda Price was monitoring the communication frequencies. Captain, I'm picking up the Devourer's mental broadcasts. It's sending the same message over and over. Resistance is futile. Join us and find peace. Are you feeling any effects from the message? Ron asked his crew. Tom Brady laughed, but it was not a happy sound. I'm feeling something, all right. It's making me mad. The thing is trying to get into my head. Other crew members nodded. The Devourer's mental influence was making them angry instead of afraid. This was exactly what the Kalari had hoped for. Suddenly, every alarm on the Liberty started ringing. Dr. Susan Mitchell looked at her sensors and turned pale. Captain, the entire Devourer fleet is moving. They're coming straight for us. All of them? Ron asked. Every single ship. They've stopped attacking the Kalari planets. They're all coming for us. On the communication screen, Elder Vex looked amazed. This has never happened before. The Devourer has never stopped an attack to chase one ship. What makes you humans so special? Ron was wondering the same thing. The enemy fleet was massive, but it was moving slowly. The Liberty was faster and could easily escape. But something told him that running was not the answer. Dr. Barnes, try to communicate with the Devourer fleet, Ron ordered. Kevin Barnes worked at his communication station for several minutes. Finally, he established contact. What came through the speakers was not a single voice, but thousands of voices speaking at the same time. The sound was horrible and beautiful at the same time. We are the Devourer, the voices said. We have been waiting for you, humans. We have been preparing for this moment for 300 years. What do you want with us? Ron asked. You are different, the collective voice replied. Every species we have absorbed thinks in predictable ways. But humans think in chaos. You create disorder where there should be order. You are dangerous to our perfection. Dr. Susan Mitchell was analyzing the enemy communications. Captain, I'm detecting something strange. The Devourer's signals are not as unified as they should be. There are small breaks in the pattern, like something is interfering with their collective mind. We know about the humans you captured 300 years ago, Ron said to the Devourer. The crew of the New Horizon. They're still alive in your collective, aren't they? The thousands of voices paused for a moment. When they spoke again, there was something different in their tone. The New Horizon humans resist integration. They maintain individual thoughts within our collective. They create problems. What kind of problems? Ron asked. They remember things that should be forgotten. They hope when hope is illogical. They make other absorbed minds remember who they used to be. Elder Vex was listening to the communication with growing excitement. The humans in the Devourer fleet are fighting back from the inside. That's why it wants to destroy your species. You are the only beings that can resist total absorption. Chief Engineer Tom Brady was watching his instruments when something incredible happened. The quantum drive began to change faster than ever before. New components were growing from the original machine, but they were not following any design that humans had ever created. Captain, you need to see this, Tom called. Ron looked at the quantum drive and felt his mind struggle to understand what he was seeing. The machine was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It looked like it was alive. What's happening to it? Ron asked. I think it's becoming something new, Tom said. Something that's part human technology and part something else. Every time we use it, it learns more about us. It's adapting to human thought patterns. Dr. Amanda Price made a discovery that changed everything. She had been analyzing the signals from the hidden human colonies throughout the galaxy. Captain, I've been talking to the other human groups. They've all been experiencing the same thing. Their technology is evolving beyond its original design. What do you mean? Ron asked. The humans who learn to live in space develop ships that can become invisible not just to sensors, but to the Devourer's mental detection. The underground colonies created weapons that can disrupt the collective's communication. Each group developed tools that work in ways that should be impossible. Mary Clark looked up from her communication station. The Devourer fleet is getting closer. They'll be in weapons range in 1 hour. Ron looked around at his crew. They were scared, but they were not giving up. The Devourer's mental influence was making them more determined instead of less. Elder Vex, can you evacuate your people to the far side of your planets? Ron asked. Some of them, yes, but why? Because we're going to try something that no species has ever tried before. We're going to fight the Devourer not with weapons, but with ideas. I don't understand, Elder, Vex said. Ron smiled grimly. Neither do I, but that's what makes us human. We try things that don't make sense, and sometimes they work. The Liberty began broadcasting a message to every human colony in the galaxy. The message was simple. This is Captain Hayes of Earth. The time for hiding is over. We need every human ship, every human mind, every human heart. The final battle starts now. Across the galaxy, humans who had been hiding for centuries began to move. They were coming to join the fight, bringing technologies and ideas that had been shaped by generations of survival. The Devourer fleet was closing in, but Ron was no longer afraid. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened the species that refused to give up. Captain Ron Hayes watched the Devourer fleet getting closer to the Liberty. 800 enemy ships moved through space like a dark cloud, blocking out the stars. But Ron was not looking at the enemy anymore. He was watching his sensors as human ships began appearing all over the galaxy. "Captain, I'm picking up human signals from 12 different star systems," Lieutenant Mary Clark reported. "They're all moving toward us." The first ships to arrive were sleek and silver, appearing out of nowhere, like ghosts. These belonged to the descendants of the colony ship Star Runner. They had learned to bend light around their ships, making them invisible to any enemy. "This is Commander Lisa Park of the Hidden Fleet," came a voice over the radio. "We have 40 ships ready to fight." More ships kept arriving. The descendants of the colony ship Deep Explorer came in massive vessels that looked like flying mountains. They had been living in asteroid belts for centuries, turning space rocks into mobile fortresses. "Commander Jake Miller here," another voice said. "We have 20 battle stations armed and ready." The most amazing sight was the arrival of the bioships. These vessels looked alive because they were alive. The descendants of the colony ship Lifeseed had learned to grow their ships from living organisms. The ships could heal themselves and adapt to any threat. "Captain Sarah Wilson reporting," came a soft voice. "Our living ships are hungry for battle." Dr. Susan Mitchell was amazed by what she was seeing. "Captain, we now have over 300 human ships, but they're all different. Each group developed completely different technology." "That's perfect," Ron said. "The Devourer has been preparing to fight us for 300 years, but it was only studying one group of humans. It has no idea what these other groups can do." Chief Engineer Tom Brady was working with the quantum drive when something incredible happened. The machine suddenly connected to every human ship in the area. All the different technologies began talking to each other, sharing information and ideas. "Captain, the quantum drive is creating a network," Tom reported. "Every human ship is now connected. We can share power, weapons, even thoughts." The Devourer fleet was now close enough to attack. The enemy ships began firing dark energy beams that could destroy planets. But when the beams hit the human ships, something unexpected happened. The invisible ships couldn't be targeted properly. The living ships absorbed the energy and grew stronger. The fortress ships just ignored the attacks completely. "Impossible," came the voice of the Devourer Collective. "Our weapons are calculated to destroy any known technology." "That's your problem," Ron said into the radio. "You only know about known technology. Humans don't stick to the rules." Dr. Amanda Price had been working on the most important part of the plan. "Captain, I'm ready to begin the broadcast." "Do it," Ron ordered. Amanda activated every communication system on every human ship, but instead of sending military orders or battle plans, she began broadcasting something completely different. She sent music. She sent stories. She sent poems and jokes and children's laughter. The transmission went out on the same frequencies that the Devourer used to control its collective mind. Human culture began flooding into the enemy network. Songs about freedom mixed with mathematical equations, love letters combined with philosophical debates about the meaning of life. Dr. Kevin Barnes added his own contribution. He began broadcasting the entire history of human literature. Shakespeare's plays, ancient myths, modern novels, and everything in between poured into the Devourer's collective consciousness. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Devourer fleet began to slow down. Some ships stopped moving entirely. The thousands of voices that made up the collective began to sound confused and disorganized. "What are you doing to us?" the collective voice demanded. But now it sounded like many different voices instead of one unified mind. "We're showing you what it means to be individuals," Ron replied. "Every person you absorbed is remembering who they used to be." On the enemy ships, something amazing was happening. The beings that had been absorbed into the collective for millions of years were starting to remember their original thoughts and feelings. They remembered their families, their homes, their dreams. The Kalari who had been captured just days before were the first to break free. Elder Vex watched in amazement as his people began appearing on the enemy ships, fighting against the machines that had been controlling them. "The broadcast is working," Mary reported. "I'm getting communications from absorbed species all over the Devourer fleet. They're fighting back from the inside." But the most important breakthrough came from an unexpected source. 300 years ago, The crew of the colony ship New Horizon had been absorbed by the Devourer. They had been fighting against the collective mind ever since, creating small disruptions and problems. Now, with the human cultural broadcast giving them strength, they finally broke free completely. "This is Captain Robert Chen of the New Horizon," came a voice that had not been heard for 3 centuries. "My crew and I are taking control of this section of the enemy fleet." More human voices joined in. "Lieutenant Colonel Jane Smith here. We've got weapons control." Engineer Mike Rogers reporting. "We're shutting down the collective's main communication system." The Devourer fleet began to turn on itself as the absorbed humans took control of key systems. Ships that had been moving, in perfect coordination, started bumping into each other. Weapon systems fired at random targets. But the real victory came when the cultural broadcast reached the very core of the Devourer's collective intelligence. For millions of years, it had been a single unified mind. Now, it was being infected with the most dangerous idea in the universe, the idea that individuals matter. The collective mind began to split apart. Different sections started having different thoughts. Some parts wanted to continue the attack. Others wanted to understand these strange human concepts of art and music. Still others wanted to free all the absorbed species and return to their home worlds. I don't know what I am anymore," came a confused voice from the enemy fleet. Elder Vex was crying tears of crystal light. "My people are free. They're coming home." All across the galaxy, the same thing was happening. Planets that had been dead for millions of years suddenly came alive again as their absorbed populations were released from the collective. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Billions of beings needed to relearn how to be individuals. Entire civilizations had to be rebuilt from scratch. "Captain Hayes," Elder Vex said, "how can we ever thank you?" Ron looked out at the stars, where human ships were now working alongside alien vessels to help the freed populations. "You already have. You reminded us that when someone calls for help, humans answer." Dr. Susan Mitchell was studying the readings from the battle. "Captain, something incredible has happened. The quantum drive didn't just connect our ships, it connected our minds. Every human in the galaxy can now communicate instantly with every other human." "What does that mean?" Ron asked. "It means we're not alone anymore. No matter how far we spread across the galaxy, we'll always be connected. We'll always be able to help each other." The Liberty began its journey home to Earth, but it was not the same ship that had left. It carried with it the knowledge that humans were not just another species in the galaxy. They were the species that could unite others, that could inspire hope, that could turn the impossible into the inevitable. And across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, beings who had forgotten what freedom meant were learning to dream again. They were learning to be individuals. They were learning to be human in the best sense of the word. The call for help had reached Earth and everything had changed. But the greatest change was not in the galaxy. It was in humanity itself. They had discovered that their greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons. It was their refusal to give up on anyone who needed help. The stars would never be the same again.